Alrighty, and welcome to On the Bench with Big Jim. Good morning. This is Jim Nielsen, and be right with you, folks. Everybody else I can add, but not my guest. Good morning. This is Jim Nielsen, and I have a special guest that we're going to have on the show today, but we have to make some adjustments here to his Facebook page so that we can have him on the show. It's another great day. Beautiful blue skies here in Moses Lake, and I hope that it is that you have a beautiful place where you're at. Today's show, we're going to have a gentleman that's kind of a legend in the wrestling world. Back in 1985, the movie Vision Quest came out, and it was and a lot of people love this movie. I love this movie, and a couple reasons is because it showed what went on in the world of wrestling, high school wrestling, and I mean, there was a lot of other stories in this movie, but as far as the wrestling goes, and the reason why it struck me was because I never wrestled at North Central High School in Spokane, but I wrestled a North Central wrestler several times in high school, and that's Thompson High in the movie, and the Hoover Panthers, I think, kind of depict the Meade Panthers, and just a second, folks, I'm sorry. Anyway, because it was in Spokane, and because you see the different things that are special about Spokane, the falls and the bridge and Swain running around town, and it brings a home. It brings a community. Back when I wrestled in high school, we would go and wrestle triple duels, either at Meade or at Shute Park, at Rogers, at Lewis and Clark. I never did wrestle at North Central though, and we had regionals at Ferris, and I don't ever remember wrestling at Central Valley, but because the Big Nine and the GSL were regional foes, I mean, we would wrestle them during the year, and we would wrestle them at Tri-State, and And so there was this, the fact that the movie Vision Quest was set in Spokane, and all of that stuff kind of, you know, it was really, really cool. And even the Columbia Bulldogs, the purple team, depicted Pasco. And Pasco and Kennewick and Moses Lake, we would go to the Spokane and wrestle a triple duel. And so all of that made it a very cool thing. And I can't add you. I can't add you, Frank. It won't let me add you. I'm trying, folks. Well, I'm trying to get Frank. Frank's trying to update his Facebook privacy so that he can be public and then be able to be pulled into the broadcast. Okay, we're gonna see if this works. Anyway, so when this movie came out, like I said, I was in college and I was actually wrestling in college as well, playing football and wrestling. And Vision Quest was just an epic wrestling movie, and it was something that, you know, I knew the referee, Coach Cash Stone from Meade High School. Shute's coach, Ken Pello, he was Roger's coach, and and he, I totally remember him. Oh, it's not letting me add you, Frank. Oh, this is. I'm sorry, folks. Anyway, well, you know, the next best thing is we're gonna bring him on by phone call, because he has a business he has to take care of. So I think that's what I'm gonna do next. But I've been looking forward to this for a couple days now. Okay. Let me just give you a call, Frank. All right. Good morning.
Hello.
How are you today?
Good. Who is this?
This is Jim Nielsen.
Oh, okay, good.
And I would love to have your face on the screen right next to mine, but I don't want to lose this opportunity to get to talk to you. So how are you doing today?
Great. This is like a major lag time.
Right. There's about 7 seconds. So you're going to need to mute your computer or your phone or whatever we can hear the broadcast on.
Okay.
And we'll just do this over the phone. I know people would rather see your face than mine, but I want to welcome Frank Jasper into On the Bench with Big Jim. So how are you doing today?
Well, it's been a great week so far. I just turned 60 yesterday.
That's great. I want to belatedly wish you a happy birthday. So that's pretty terrific that you're 60 years old.
Thanks, buddy.
Do you don't feel 60 because you don't look 60? How do you? I mean, you're in the health industry. How do you feel?
I actually feel tremendous. I think that we've learned through diet, nutrition, and exercise how to really take better care of ourselves. So I feel very young at this age.
That's awesome. And your business is a fitness and health business, isn't it?
Yes, I'm an acupuncturist, and I deal with health, fitness, and longevity.
Oh wow, I didn't know about the acupuncture stuff. We'll have to talk about that here in a little bit. Because this week, tomorrow the NCAA National Wrestling Tournament starts, and the buzz in the wrestling world is this weekend's tournament, and so I thought it would be a great way to continue the week of talking about wrestling, is to have you on the show today to talk about basically your life and how you came about getting the role of Shute in this epic wrestling movie of Vision Quest. So, if you don't mind, I'd like to start at the beginning. Let my listeners know where did you? I mean, you were born in Ellensburg. Isn't that right?
Yes, that's correct. I was born in Ellensburg, Washington.
And then you did actually live in Moses Lake for some time.
I did. For about 3, 4, maybe a couple of years. When I was in kindergarten, first grade.
And where did you go to school? Did you go to Garden Heights?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Was it the school near the high school?
That was so long ago.
Long ago?
Sorry.
And that's fine. But do you have any memories of Moses Lake, being so young?
I have some very fond memories of Moses Lake. I was on the Big Ben swim team, Big Ben Manta Ray swim team.
Yeah.
I remember playing in the dirt in our backyard, out past the fence, digging holes and playing with bugs. And I just loved our little neighborhood. It was a very small little group. And a guy around the corner would always fix our flat tires. It was your typical neighborhood.
Uh-huh. Those are terrific stories. And then you ended up finishing high school in Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah, that's right. I lived in Nez Perce, Idaho for about 5 years, which is only 555 people. Then I moved to Coeur d'Alene and went through high school, freshman into high school, graduated.
And you obviously were a wrestler at Coeur d'Alene High School. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that was my first exposure to wrestling as a freshman in high school. And just so the rest your listeners know, I weighed 112 pounds as a freshman.
As a freshman? That's you're a little itty bitty guy.
I was one of the smallest. There was only one guy that was smaller than us.
Wow.
Smaller than me, like 99 pounds.
Wow.
101. He kind of jumped.
And you graduated Coeur d'Alene in 1977, isn't that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Now, you told me the other day an interesting thing, that you ended up going to North Idaho College. Obviously, living in Coeur d'Alene, you have the junior college right there, but you didn't wrestle there. You played tennis.
Yeah, that's the thing that sort of amazes me in retrospect. That I actually had switched, and I didn't wrestle my senior year. I would have wrestled at 155 pounds, but I ended up playing tennis all winter with the college team and getting a scholarship. So I ended up going to North Idaho on a tennis scholarship. That's
to look at you in the movie, and that this is a couple years down the road yet. I would have never guessed you as looking at your physique as Shute in the movie. I would have never guessed that as a tennis player. But tell us, because you did a little you didn't compete, but you wrestled. Was it a friend or a relative? Who is it you worked out with at Columbia Basin College down in Pasco?
Yeah, a guy named Chris Blake, who was 2 years younger than me. He was in my brother's grade, was a wrestler at 190 pounds at Pasco, and he needed a training partner. So I was, the nuclear reactors were shut down, and I was an iron worker there working, and so I was off, and he asked me to come in and wrestle with him. So for that season, I got to wrestle with the team.
That's probably a pretty cool experience, because you've been out of high school for a couple years now, and you're wrestling with a college wrestling team. How did did you ever have an inclination to go to school and try to wrestle?
I didn't think about wrestling at that time because I was into bodybuilding.
Uh-huh.
So the physique that you saw in the movie was result of 5 years of very intense bodybuilding.
Oh, okay.
And then, as you probably know, or may not know, that for the movie I actually dropped 25 pounds in 2.5 weeks, and then we shot the film for 10 weeks.
And did you actually weigh 168 pounds, give or take?
My right arm weighed 168 pounds.
Because I just so happened to watch the movie the other night just to try to refresh my memory and make some notes. And my daughter was like, "There's no way that guy weighs 168 pounds."
Not on a good day. I weighed 189.
Did you?
When we were filming most of the film.
Oh, that's terrific. So anyway, so you go from you're living in Pasco, working down there at the site, and you end up in Cheney. Tell us how you ended up going to Eastern Washington University, and what was it you were studying?
So my brother started going to school there. My sister was going to school there at Eastern Washington. So I just decided I was done with ironworking, and I wanted to get a job where I was going to be indoors as opposed to outdoors. I loved working iron, but it was hard work. So I was bound and determined and highly motivated to go back and get a degree. So 3 days later, after I quit as an iron worker, I was at Eastern Washington. And one of the things that was offered was the athletic training degree. Uh-huh. And that was my whole mindset. I was into bodybuilding. I was into nutrition. I was into kinesiology and understanding the body and how it works and how to best support it to perform. And so that seemed like a natural for me.
That's awesome, because you met some people there that are friends of mine.
Who's that?
John Houston was a teammate, football and track. John was a year ahead of me, but John ran track at Eastern, and he wanted to tell you hello, and that he had fond memories of you as you were an athletic trainer. And he met you there, and then he ran into you down in Los Angeles, because that's where he lives now. Back in the 80s, after you had moved to California. But do you remember John Houston?
Just the name, and I'd have to see his face, because I'm not really great until I see somebody's face.
I'll make sure you guys. I'll make sure you guys reconnect. And then another friend of mine that I was an athletic trainer with at Washington State. He grew up with you in Coeur d'Alene, and Brian Sanders, and he said he went to school with you and your brother Jack, and he took scuba dive lessons with your sister Ricky.
Oh, I totally forgot about the scuba diving. And Brian Sanders, just a hulk of a guy, but just the sweetest man ever.
Oh yeah, when I got to Washington State, he and I became really good friends, just because he was surrounded by women in the athletic training program, and he worked with basketball and he worked with track, and great human being, and now he takes care of people in the Coeur d'Alene area still.
That's awesome. Yeah, he actually hit me up on Facebook and said, "Hey, have a good talk with Jim." And mentioned that he had worked with you. It was just great to hear
Yeah,
that.
no,
So
I love Bubba. He's a great guy, and I imagine he'll probably be watching. But because right now he's probably working on somebody, making him squeal, and he has a hands-on, fix your body way of curing people's ailments. But he's a great man and a really good friend. And he commented on my post, and then I had a bunch of other people post about how there's a PE teacher here in Moses Lake, and she was an extra in the movie as a dancer in the dance movie scene.
Ah, cool.
And then she commented that she has the Warner Brothers check of $98 to prove that she was in that movie, which I thought was a pretty cool thing. And then did you know the guy from the McLean brother that wrestled you in the movie? Did you know him at all, or did you?
No, I did not know McLean, and so we never really even spoke before we even did the scene. We just kind of lined us up, choreographed it, we shot it. It was pretty straightforward, and I really didn't have a chance to hang with him.
Well, this is I have a friend here in Moses Lake who's the movie came out when he was a senior in high school, and but he ran into the McLean character. His brother is the head wrestling coach at Meade right now, at Meade High School. But anyway, he was telling my friend Greg that he said he felt like a total fish letting Shute throw him so easily to his back with no fight. And I thought, well, that was part of the movie. Shute was a multiple time state champion and undefeated, and all of the build up to, you were called a monster, and you were called a bunch of different things about what a terrifying wrestler you were. Nobody wanted to wrestle you. The coach when Swain tells them, "Hey, I want to drop to 68 to wrestle Shute," and the coach's face is like, "What? Are you crazy? No one wants to wrestle Shute." And did that well? Before we go there about this movie, you're Eastern when you heard about the casting call. Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Yeah, so I was an athletic trainer, as you know, in the program now. And now we have different semesters we work with different teams. That semester, I just happened to be working with the wrestling team. And one of the guys who was in the movie, named Rick Seafault, was an extra.
He wrestled at Rogers.
And there was, pardon me?
He wrestled at Rogers High School, I think.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I want to say he wrestled at Rogers High School.
I think he did.
I think he did. And his coach was your coach.
Yes.
In the movie.
Absolutely.
Coach Pello was awesome.
Yeah, and coach from Meade, of course, Coach Castone, he was the referee in the movie.
Yeah. And that made the movie special to me because I knew these people, and it was terrific. But anyway, tell us about your casting interview or whatever.
Well, so Rick Seafault comes in and tells me about the movie and says, "Hey, you know what? They're still looking for a wrestler, 6 foot tall, blonde hair, muscular build that can wrestle." And then he looks at me and he goes, "That's you. You got to go."
Yeah.
So gives me the casting director's number, and I finally get in to see her a couple days later, and I'm thinking, well, if I can go and be an extra in a movie and see how a movie gets made, how cool is that? As a college student, I'm always looking to have some extra money because I was bouncing on the weekends just to keep my, payments coming in to pay for my schooling. So
sure.
This would beat bouncing at the Slab Inn at Post Falls, so yeah.
Yeah.
So I go in, and I get introduced to this lady named Pat, and she hands me these papers and goes, "Look over the lines, and we'll go through it." Now, Rick never told me the guy even had lines, otherwise I probably wouldn't have even gone in. This is like way out of my comfort zone. So we read the lines, and, she says, read the lines and let's go. And so I'm reading the lines. I make a mistake. I laugh because I'm nervous. And she looks at me and stops. She goes, we're looking for intensity here. If you make a mistake, just continue on as if nothing happened. Got it? I was like, okay, got it.
Got it.
All right. So I do the lines, get through it. She makes a phone call. She goes, let's go talk to the director. I walk out of there. We're in a hotel. We walk down the hallway and around the corner. We go to Harold Becker's office room. I walk in there. He looks at me, takes the sides out of my hands. He goes, you know the lines now. Let's do the scene. And I just believed him. And so I somehow got through it. And then I had to go and wrestle for Cash Stoney. Then I came back for another audition. And then they wanted me to shave 5 auditions later. The last one was when I came back for the final audition, and I had to read for John Peters and Peter Goober, who flew down from L.A. They brought another wrestler with them. So I had to read for them with my shirt off. I had to get in the scene in the room, take my shirt off, and do the scene with them. Then they brought a guy down with them that also did the scene so that the director could see him. And then we went on the set, so that Cash Stoney could see us wrestle, so that he'd never seen this kid wrestle, and he had to sign off on him. So there we are on the set, on this big mat, and Coach Stoney's going single leg, double leg, duck under, fireman's, and he's just calling these off, and we just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until he said quit. And then John Peters walked over and said, you got the job.
Awesome. That's a pretty cool story. And
wild.
Cash signed off on you. Now, because in looking at the movie, you could tell that you had wrestled prior. I'm not so sure about Matthew Bodine. Did he have much wrestling experience?
I don't think he had any wrestling experience. You know who had wrestling experience was Michael Schofling. He was actually a collegiate champion.
And and he is
Cooch.
Oh, he was Cooch. Okay.
Yeah, Cooch.
Oh, okay. And then, but I mean, when you look at the movie, the build up to you was pretty intense. Everybody, you were a terror. You destroyed people, all this stuff. And then they show the scene where they see you climbing up the bleachers at Joe Albi Stadium. Tell us the PE teacher here in Moses Lake that was a dance extra. She wrote about a story about how they played a trick on you, trying to make you think that log was really heavy when it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, I just show up on set. I don't even remember that I had that understanding that this is what we were going to shoot that day with me with the log. I just show up. They put me in costume. I show up to the stadium. They bring this huge log over, and they were like kind of laughing and going, "Oh, you just got to carry this up and down the stadium a few times. We'll shoot it." And I kind of laughed, and I was just, again went to go pick it up, and it was much lighter than they had hollowed it out to some degree.
Yeah.
But so the real trick about that whole scene was that it was a fall day, and everybody was in the crew was wearing parkas and gloves and hats, and I'm out there in a tank top and shorts, and they had to spray glycerin on my face to make it look like I was actually sweating.
Uh-huh.
And if you notice, Matthew and
he's got his Letterman jacket on.
They both were wearing jackets, or they were, vests and everything.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
But that's
iconic scene.
It is, because that's the introduction of you. I mean, that's the first time physically, if I remember right, that people actually see this guy that's legendary named Shute, and you're carrying a log up Joe Albi Stadium's bleachers, which is it was a great scene, a great scene, and that's I mean, when people see that, people think, oh, that's Shute, and a great. That's a great. It's a great scene in the movie. And you know, the cool thing about it was, you say, "Do I know you?" and he's like, he tells him, "I'm Loudon Swain from Thompson High," and he goes, "Think you'll make the weight?" And that's a great question, because that was the buzz around town, was that Loudon Swain was going to drop from 190 to 168 to wrestle the Shute. And
right.
What a great scene. Tell us, did you get to know Coach Pello? I mean, he stands by you when you get ready to go out on the mat, but did you get to know him at all?
You know, unfortunately, it was just during the day. We did all this shooting, and then it came for the final scene, the big match, and so I hadn't met him or talked to him up until that day. And then, you know, they just bring you out and they tell you what to do, and my connection with him was just very short. What they saw, like where I walked over to him on a blood timeout,
yeah.
And so I never got to know him, but I heard that, you know, he and Stoney, Meade and Rogers had such a great rivalry.
Yes,
that it was almost
they did.
like the rivalry in the movie.
Yeah.
But I got to know Cash Stone because I went to the wrestling practices all the time until we got ready to shoot, you know.
And two legendary Hall of Fame coaches, outstanding men by all standards. And in fact, I get to see them at the state tournament. They have the Hall of Famers. They honor the Hall of Famers and have them come out on the mats at the state tournament. So it's great. You know, Coach Stone is still doing really well, and very cool that those two guys were put into the movie to make it have that Spokane feel and touch. You know,
Yes.
It was wonderful. Did you feel? And you know, I was looking at a Siskel and Ebert segment about how they really liked the movie Vision Quest, and how, you know, it followed the Rocky, you know, scenario where he's down and out and then he wins at the end. And now, and they're like, and there is there talk, or do you think there's a chance of a Vision Quest 2 or a remake of this?
Well, yes. I just spoke with Terry Davis in the last few weeks. He's writing a sequel, Swain's Son. It's a book that he's writing that will probably already has some interest. So I told him, please, I would like to see anything done with Vision Quest before I leave the planet, man. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
And anything I can do, just let me know. I've been out there promoting wherever I can, and I actually created a site, and I sell shirts with the iconic, scene with me carrying the log up the stadium.
Yeah.
And by the way, the scene where it says, I think you'll make the weight, but it's out of Legos, like a Lego characters.
Oh, okay.
And I'll send you the clip. I have a stop action that this guy did of that scene with Legos, but the actual soundtrack from the movie.
Oh.
It is awesome.
Oh,
It's
that's
so
cool. I'd
Yeah.
like to see that. So now, once the movie's over and it comes out, and you finish being an athletic trainer, tell us what you did next. Did you not move to California?
So I went back to school. I filmed. So this is how it kind of went down. I filmed for 10 weeks. And I went back to school. And 3 months later, I'm back to bodybuilding. They called me up and we said, we got one more scene. And I said, okay, I'm weighing 217 pounds. So I dropped back down to 198 or 89. I flew down to California, shot the scene here for a week, went back to school. 3 months later, I get another call. Well, we got one more scene to do. And you know where I was? I was back to bodybuilding. I was at 225 pounds.
Wow.
And then I said, you got to tell the director I weigh 225. Oh, don't worry about it, Frank. Don't worry about it. You're going to be wearing a jean jacket. I said, tell the director.
Oh, is
I
that
weigh
the scene in the
225.
bathroom?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
That
in
was
the hallway?
last scene
Yeah.
that was filmed. So he gets on the phone and goes, "Start losing weight, Frank." And I said, I can't go down to anything lower but 200 pounds. So I dropped down to 200 and shoot that. And then I went back to school.
And you have a classic line there where you say, you can't hold your mud. I totally love that.
That's the beauty of this, is they gave my character these iconic lines.
Yes.
I gave him an iconic scenes, and I just had to step into that role. And luckily, I looked the part.
You did, and you nailed it. It was terrific. You know, you're a bleeder, and I love to see blood. That's just those are great lines.
Did you see that Princeton actually did a promo piece at the beginning of this year where they redid that scene from the stadium?
Princeton Wrestling?
Yes.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go find that.
You got to go online. I'll try and send that one to you.
That would be terrific. That would be terrific.
That's the best remake I've seen of that scene so far.
That's so cool. So, you finish school and you're an athletic trainer. Is that correct?
So I completed all my athletic. I put 4,000 hours in the athletic training.
Yeah.
Completed all my degree work, but I had a minor still to finish. But I got a call from California, and an agency said, "Hey, we saw you in Vision Quest. We love your work. We want to represent you." So I packed everything into my 280ZX and drove to California.
Wow.
And I've been here ever since.
Wow. And did you do some more work in the industry?
Yes. So, like the movie, this became my Vision Quest.
Uh-huh.
I'd never acted before, so I started taking acting classes. I got a job at Universal Studios to play a character in the Conan show, live show for 2.5 years. I did another movie, did a national commercial. I was working, but I also wasn't taking care of myself. And so after 3 years, I just completely, burned out. I was living on coffee and Afrin, because my sinuses were just terrible, and I was in terrible shape. So I decided I needed to step away and go back to healing. And that's when acupuncture came in to go to acupuncture school.
Okay.
That's when the shift happened.
And you're married now. Tell us about how you met your wife.
So my manager, I had a whole team. I had a great team of people. I had a wonderful agency and a manager. And he had done a session with this lady who he said changed his life. And she did readings, but she also did kind of counseling. And because I was in this self-discovery place, I said, I've got to go meet this woman. And I showed up on her doorstep. We did this session together, and I was in the process of also expanding my healing work. And so I started doing some reflexology on her during the session, and there was a very powerful connection that we had that transcended even this reality. And we realized what kind of a connection we had. 3 days later, I'm with her and her friend for her birthday, and that's when we actually decided that there was something really special about our relationship, and we started dating at that time.
Cool. That's a great story too. So
it's wild.
And now you guys have a health and wellness business together.
Osani Holistic Healthcare we've been here since 1995 in Pacific Palisades, and I've been married for over 30 years to this lady, and she's the rock. She's a great lady to just partner and be a warrior through these difficult times.
Oh, that's terrific to have a good woman by your side. So that's terrific. Well, I know you have this business and you have a client here soon, so I'm going to let you go. But I just wanted to let you know that as a kid, I mean, you're a couple years older than I am, but as a kid when this came out, it made me so proud to, number one, be a wrestler, number two, to be from the Northwest, and to know people that were in this movie, Cash Stone and Coach Pello, and that even though you were, I don't know if you were considered the bad guy, but you're considered the foe, the challenge in this movie, and you nailed it so well, especially like we were talking about when you're telling him he couldn't hold his mud, but and then the scene in the stadium, but you played such a big part in making this movie such a cool movie. And Matthew Modine, what a great character. Just and he was your same age, isn't that right?
Yes. So we both were 26.
You were both 26, and you guys pulled off high school characters so well. It was just outstanding. You guys did an outstanding job, and I want to thank you because it was a part of my life that I mean, it's going to last forever, and hopefully they do make a new movie with this. That would be so cool.
Yes, absolutely. And again, I'm gonna just pile right on top of there too, because Matthew hit that thing between intensity and the lighthearted and the fun and the challenge he had of discovering himself and the relationship with the girl. He played that just so well, and so he had to carry the film. And I got to play the heavy, which is usually the more fun role, but they allowed it to be this big ominous thing in the background that filled him with fear and challenged him. So it was just an incredible experience. The fact that it's still impacting, this is going on like a fourth generation, to me says that it must hit a chord about issues that we're all still facing in high school as a wrestler. And I like the way they humanized the wrestler, and you got to see inside the back, behind the curtain, to see how things are done on the mat in the wrestling room a little bit, and it shows the dedication that these athletes do, and how it's a brotherhood.
Oh yeah.
How they really stick together, and this is just another one of those connections that you and I have, and how we love and support each other, and we'll always be there for another wrestler, and you can count on them.
Oh, no question. It's total brotherhood, and even in the movie, and the Thompson High conflict, the heavyweight getting after Swain for trying to drop weight just so he could wrestle Swain, which was upsetting the balance of the team.
Exactly.
And but there are those kind of conflicts because even though it's an individual sport, there's a big team element of it. And it was interesting in that when Swain comes back into the wrestling room after Carla visited him, and he gets back into the conditioning, and he and Otto have that confrontation, and then he climbs the wall, the peg wall.
Yeah.
And because he was like, this is an individual sport, and it was cool to see that, but it is an individual sport that has a big team element. And I was blessed to be a part of a state championship team my junior year, and there's winning individual championships is cool, but winning team championships is very, very special.
Yeah. There's a bonding that happens when you go to battle.
Yes.
That you just, there's just nothing else you can say. Is that there's another level of connectivity that happens that, that you feel it is unspoken, even, that you just know is there for the rest of your life. And
it makes it a very, very, very special sport. So, hey. Okay. Go ahead.
Also, I just got to say this because I'm sorry that we didn't get the technical thing worked out.
And it's okay.
And I feel like there's still a ton of stuff to talk about. So
let me
know.
Let's do this
and
again.
We'll work it out.
Yeah, let's do this again. I would love to visit with you again. So
okay.
Thank you very much.
After the NCAAs, and we get to kind of talk about the stuff that went down there. That'd be cool.
Starts tomorrow, which is a cool thing for everybody. Gets to go and be in Pittsburgh. But there's lots of ways to watch it, so it's going to be a great weekend of wrestling. So, hey, Frank, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and We will most definitely talk again. You have a great day.
All right, Jim.
All right, man.
Jim, I should say. Have a great day, man.
Take care. We'll see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Alrighty, folks. Oh my gosh. I'm blessed to be able to have associations like this and to be able to share it with you. And for those of you who are still watching, if you could let me know what you think of the movie, what you thought of the movie, what you think of wrestling. Most of my world is wrestling, and because it's a great sport and it teaches you so much about yourself. And thank you, Jim. I totally agree. Visiting, even though we weren't able to do it face to face on the camera, being able to talk to him was good. Sorry you guys had to look at me the whole time, but what a great story he has, and an opportunity that he took. His life took him all over the place. He was born in Ellensburg, lived in Moses Lake, Nez Perce, Idaho, then Coeur d'Alene, and playing tennis at North Idaho. Crazy. And then he goes to work at the Hanford site and lives in the Tri-Cities and wrestles. He wrestles with a friend that was a wrestler at CBC. And then he goes to Eastern. And he was there at school with another friend of mine that I went to high school with. It was a track stud at Eastern, John Houston. But anyway, it's a great movie. Vision Quest was a great movie, and it was iconic, and it was at a time when wrestling didn't have a big presence as far as media presence. It never made TV. Thankfully, ESPN now covers some of the wrestling, and we're going to be able to see that this weekend. But hopefully we can continue to build the sport. Women's wrestling is taking hold. Maria Reyes from Big Bend Community College, she won a national championship this last weekend, and that's here in Moses Lake. First year of women's wrestling at Big Bend Community College, we end up getting a national champion. That's very, very cool, and hopefully we can build on that. The fact that we had an All-American, and Shimano took third place, and so we had two women placers, and then we had Eduardo Rodriguez from Royal. He took seventh for Big Bend Vikings, and so we had an All-American for the men. It's great to have wrestling back. I know there's a lot of controversy about the program, but it's opportunities for kids that wouldn't have those opportunities to wrestle somewhere, and it's wonderful that Big Bend is able to do that. And now that I think about that, I want to make sure people are aware of the Big Bend Community College booster auction that's April 5th, and I posted about it yesterday. Now I can't find, I'm not able to find the flyer right here, but it's something that people can get involved with, and The sequel, that would be cool to have Cooper and Hunter wrestle in the sequel. Yeah, Hunter could be Shute's kid in the movie. That would be cool. But anyway, Cooper could be Swain's kid. That would be terrific. That would work. But anyway, it was fun today. I appreciate you being with me here on the bench. And we will try and do this again on Friday. Thank you, everybody. Again, April 5th, not very far away. But if you can help out the Big Bend Community College Boosters auction in any way, with an item or with sponsoring a table, that would be terrific. Help support the athletics out at Big Bend Community College. The community college is doing its best to provide opportunities for young people to not only get an education, but also to further their athletic careers, and so it's an honorable thing. And thank you for jumping in today. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will do it again Friday. Take care, everybody. Thanks again, and have a good day.